Hi, this is Sarah, and this is my test wrapper for Physics 2. The problem that I had the biggest problem on was number 1. A neutral rod made of an unknown material is brought near a charged metal sphere. The rod is held by rubber insulating supports. On one end of the rod touches the metal sphere, and then the rod is pulled away. You bring a negatively charged piece of tape near the rod and observe that it is repelled. The tape is repelled no matter what part of the rod you hold the tape to. The biggest part of this problem is that it was repelled after touching the metal sphere, letting you know that charges changed from the sphere to the rod. So this is a true and false problem. The first statement, the rod is a conductor. That is true. You know this because after touching the metal sphere, the neutral rod became charged, as can be assumed by the repulsion of the negatively charged objects. You know that conductors exhibit mobile charges, so this is a conductor. The second, the rod has a net positive charge after touching the metal sphere. This is false. You see that the rod repels negatively charged objects, and so it's also negative because like charges tend to repel. The magnitude of the charge on the metal ball is lower after the rod touches it. This is true because the ball loses some electrons to the rod. The mobile electrons move to the rod from the ball, therefore making the overall charge less negative and the magnitude less of the ball. The electrons flowed from the metal sphere to the rod while they were in contact. This is true. Just like I said in the last statement, this is how the rod got charged and agrees with the property of mobile charges on conductors. So the second part, you now touch the rod. After doing this, you observe that the charged tape is no longer repelled by any part of the rod. The first statement in this, while touching the rod, chloride atoms, Cl negative, from the salt water on your skin move onto the rod. This is false. You know that opposite charges attract and like charges repel. Before the rod was negatively charged, so it would not have attracted negatively charged chlorine atoms, but it would have attracted positively charged sodium ions. So while touching the rod, sodium ions from the saltwater solution on your skin moved onto the rod is true. Electrons from the mobile electron C in your hand move onto the rod. This is false. You know this because the rod becomes more positive when you touch it. Your hand itself is an insulator, and it does not have a mobile sea of electrons like a conductor would. The electrons from the mobile electron sea of the rod move into the mobile electron sea in your hand. This is tricky. This is the one I got wrong. The answer is false because your hand does not have a mobile sea of electrons. As I just said, it's an insulator itself, and you consider it separately from the saltwater solution that is on your hands. Protons are pulled out of the nuclei in your hand and move onto the rod. This is false. When protons are pulled out of nuclei, things explode, and this obviously didn't happen. And then again, protons are pulled out of nuclei of atoms and rods and moved onto your hand. You can't pull a proton out. So that is my test wrapper, Physics 2, Test 1.